welcome to the third episode of this interview series. I'm Aditi Ediga, your host for today. I would like to introduce a special guest, Ms. Sarika Bansal, a Cary Town Council member. Before we dive in, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners and share a bit about you and your advocacy in the mental health space and in local public service?
You said it all. My name is Sarika Bansal. I am the first Indian to be elected in town of Cary, first Indian woman to be elected in Wake County. And my passion lies with mental health challenges and making sure that we continue to empower women. Those are my passion projects.
Thank you. This new season focuses on unfollowing the noise of digital chaos and especially spreading that awareness to youth. And with your experience in cybersecurity, what is one thing you feel like individuals miss out on when they're tuned into the noise of digital world?
I think I'm a mom of a 17-year-old, so I understand, the pressure that the youth has today with all the digital resources and, the pressure of that I have to prove myself to somebody. And I think that is a huge challenge and a mind block. I feel what you miss out is the real opportunity and um, real opportunity that exists there of talking to people, learning through experiences. I think that's one thing that I feel that in today's generation, I don't see too much happen.
Yes, I definitely agree. And as you said, you are the first Indian American woman on the Cary Town Council. So, how do you believe that representation in local leadership contributes to a sense of belonging and mental well being for diverse communities like in Cary?
I think it's very important for that we have representation at all levels of government where the decisions are being made. Well, the way I look at this is that the when I won the election, it was just not me, one person winning that election. It was empowering so many people out there who are very scared to voice their opinion, to take leadership roles, or to even step outside their homes. And I I received so many messages from so many people after my election that my candidacy gives them power to even think that they belong, and that even they can make a difference. Or to little girls, they used to walk up to me and would tell me, "Oh, this is Sarika Bansal. She looks like me." And I can be like her. So to empower others, I feel like that was the biggest achievement of my entire political career.
Yeah, I definitely do also feel inspired seeing that there is representation for people who look like me in the local government. So, can you talk a little bit more about your work on the council and how you're advocating for better mental health resources and even third spaces like parks and greenways so that Cure residents can maintain their wellness?
Yes. So one of the things that I identified as a candidate in talking, I went on a 1,000 door learning tour where I spoke to 1,000 people in my district and try to understand what exactly is their opinion of our district, of town of Cary. What do they think is a challenge for them? I'm a resident and I know certainly that there are certain aspects, but what do they think, is a challenge? So that was one of the key part of my learning and my growth. And one of the things I identified was that in my district, um, as these different developments were coming along, we were losing the common spaces from the communities. So builders were building communities without having common areas where people can meet. In the evening, kids can go and play, and we didn't have too much investment in parks in this district. So most of the children were really left playing on the street, and which can be very dangerous. And so I felt that could be that is a huge challenge from a mental health perspective, because we want people to come out, we want people to meet each other, we want the district to be very vibrant, and we want everybody to get along with each other. But how does that happen? It happens when you go out and you meet your neighbors in a common setting. So one of the things as a council member that I did was, I focus every time there's a project that comes to council's review, I make sure I advocate for having a common space, dedicated for a park, or for where people can sit, they can meet, and they can go for walks together. It's very important, and that's very important from a mental health perspective, because sometimes our neighbors are struggling and we don't know that, but we don't know because we don't meet them. But if there is a place where if the community can meet regularly, these are things that you can learn about your neighbors and you can help them. So that's like very big on my list.
Yeah, thank you for advocating for that. Those spaces are very important. As a public official and small business owner, how do you manage digital demands while protecting your own mental health as you advocate?
So there are several things that I do. I do not get I'm yes, I'm a human being. I do get trapped in the same mindset where I'm constantly online and I'm checking my messages. But what I also have started doing, like, and I've been like always doing this, um, I go for long walks, I go to gym, I make sure I take care of myself. I spend a lot of time with my friends. When I'm with my friends, I generally don't tend to touch phone.
Mhm.
I try to. My family lives in New Jersey, so when I'm visiting them, I try to be a little bit more involved with them rather than focusing on phone or emails. Work will always be there, but your health, your growth, and your family and your friends will not be there all the time. So when you're there, you have to focus on that. So that's what I do.
Yeah, it's definitely very important to be present in the moment, especially with your loved ones. So,
Yes.
as you said, as you're a mother, what do you believe are some of the major problems with the impact of social media and mental health on curious youth, and how can the local government, such as council members like you, support them more?
I think one of the biggest challenge that I see is too much reliance and validation that the youth needs from each other. I see this happening even in my own house, where my daughter would come to me and tell me, "Mom, I had 700 likes on my post." And I keep telling her that this is not real. This is fluff. This is fake. This is just people scrolling and they just liked your post. It does not have a real meaning to it. I think one thing that we have to continue to advocate, and I think your generation will get impacted more than anyone, because it's something that I feel like your generation relies on a lot more than human interaction. We as council members have to continue to focus on building spaces where people can come together. We build meaningful interaction within the community. I think that's what we all need to focus on.
Do you feel like your background in cybersecurity and town leadership influence how you view the importance of digital literacy and mental wellness of citizens, especially as devices and AI start to become more present in the world?
Could you repeat that question? I
Yeah.
apologize.
Do you feel like your background in cybersecurity and town leadership influence how you view the importance of mental wellness and literacy in our world, especially as we're moving more to technology?
I think it's, yes, definitely my background in cybersecurity definitely helps me be more careful about digital interactions. I take this with a grain of salt when somebody's saying something on Facebook, because when you invite those people to meet you in person, you find a very different person communicating with you. So I feel like there's definitely that aspect. But me as a person, me as a me as a person of who where I am today in my life, like, I'm a mom, so I see day to day issues and challenges with my daughter and her friends. I see with the broader community. I deal with so many young adults. This is really coming from a place of experience at this point, from different roles that I play in my life.
And have you ever faced challenges and stigma when discussing mental health topics in professional discussions, especially when you're discussing local policy?
I have personally not faced any social stigma. I'm a very direct person. I'd like to keep things real. I have never ever come to a point where people have, like, frowned upon this. But I know that that is a common sentiment out there, and we have to make sure that we are being very open about these conversations.
And as the leader of a lot of different initiatives that are creating impact in Cary, if you could change one thing about how schools and the town are handling technology to support mental health, what would it be?
I would say that, so I am not a big advocate of that we should not let students use phones, or we should not let students but we should make sure that we are communicating and educating the youth on the side effects and giving them opportunities to be out there and be themselves in person. And I think that digital detox is needed, but then, it's so hard because it's so ingrained in our system today that it's not even possible to remove it 100%. So how do we find that correct balance? Like, for many years I didn't give my daughter um, an iPad or phone. As little kids, you see they're watching stuff on the phone. So my daughter never did that. But come COVID, her school mandated that they had to go on virtual school. So what do? You have to kind of make sure that the kids are equipped, they're successful, but yet you always have to be there to make sure that they understand that this is not real world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And where can listeners learn more about the work that you're doing and the work that Town of Cary is doing?
So we do have newsletters. Our town of Kerry also have newsletter. You can go on the website. You can sign up for that newsletter. I am very good with communicating with residents of my district, so I continuously post things on my Facebook all about anything that's impacting my district, any decision that the council took regarding my district. I tend to post about that on my Facebook, my Instagram. I have a newsletter myself, so if anyone is interested in getting added to that list, you can send me an email at info@sarikaforcarey.com, and I'll plug you in.
Thank you. I'll make sure to put those in the description.
I appreciate it.
And thank you so much for being here, Ms. Bunsel. Your insights and the impact that you've made in Cary have been very impactful, and I'm sure a lot of youth are feeling very impacted as well. And to the listeners, thank you so much for listening. See you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you about a very important topic today.